Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this spectacular episode, I'm gonna lay that out right now. I'm gonna tell you this episode's spectacular before we even start. I just want to remind everybody that if you want to follow us and see what else is going on in the From the Shadows podcast world, you can visit us at our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. There's links to everything from our Facebook to our Instagram. We even have a TikTok. I don't do any dancing on there though, or singing, but we do have a TikTok page. You can also find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram if you want to follow all the shenanigans that I'm up to. And if you have an experience or a sighting that you want to share with us, go to that website and hit the contact button and send me an email. And I promise I'll read it and get back to you. And if it's something you want to share on the show, we would love to have you on. So with that being said, um, I have a couple of great ladies that I tried to track down. Now, I don't want this to sound creepy that I was trying to track down these two ladies. Okay. So I don't want this to sound bad, but I was told about these ladies and their YouTube channel, and the cool things they were doing. And I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of them. Okay. So our good friend Amy Boo, who was on a couple episodes ago, said she knew how to get a hold of these ladies. Now, I've been set up on blind dates before, and it just, it never worked out. But uh, thankfully, these two were not scared away and agreed to come on the show and hang out a little bit and share about what they're doing. Okay, and I think you're gonna really dig what these ladies are doing. So, joining me is Lailani. Wave to the camera, Lailani. Okay. And Carrie Lynn of the Pikuni Bigfoot Storytelling Project. Did I get all that right? I was
Got it
very
right.
I was
Perfect.
very I was very scared. Okay. I was very scared. But you guys have this, and we'll get into how it started and what's going on, but you guys have this YouTube series or this YouTube page that it's you guys going out and um, trying to document stories of Bigfoot and from your people from the Blackfeet tribe, right? Uh, is how I take it from a historical standpoint. Is kind of how I read it, like stories that took place in your oral history or whatever that were passed down, and and along the way, you guys are collecting stories that aren't so historical. They're happening right now, which is really awesome. And plus, you get to see you guys out like doing things that I would never do. Snowshoeing deep into the forest. Like that's just crazy. That's just crazy. So I want you guys to kind of like tell our audience more about this project and what you guys are doing and how you guys really got into it and what made you want to do this. Well, yeah, what have you got to hey, the pressure's on. The pressure's on. So
Well, I think like our family has always talked about Bigfoot and um um and we've always like, it's always different stories that we heard growing up and just people having experiences and so all my life I always knew that Bigfoot existed, but I wasn't really into it. I like to listen to priests. And in Blackfeet, the name that we call Bigfoot is Imoyitabi. And Imoyitabi, or another way to say it is Imoyitabi, fairy people. And so the term people relate Bigfoot not as an animal to the Blackfeet people, but as another type of people. And so, we just grew up hearing those stories, and but it wasn't till later years in 1999 when I had my own sighting that it really, you know, hit home that yes, these things are real. They're out there, and so it changed my whole perspective on the outdoors. And so I just, heard the stories, but at the same time, after that, I knew, they were real. They're out there.
S- So before I have you describe your experience, but as growing up and listening to the stories, did you did your family have their own experiences, or were they stories they were passing down that they had heard from their from the elders, from people that came before them?
The stories I heard were just actual, experiences that people had, like family or friends. And, but like with me and my mom and dad, immediate family, we never had experiences. But then after we moved out into the country, which is our property sits about 7 miles from Glacier National Park. So we're just kind of right up to the mountain area. We started to have experience, uh, things happening on that property. And then after that, we started to relate things that had happened years ago that we didn't connect. And so we shared different weird stuff that had happened, but we never associated it with Bigfoot until we moved to this property and started experiencing different things going there. And then when I actually had the sighting, we really put two and two together that not all of these experiences that we've been having is, like really was experiences with MOE.
So what kind of stuff was happening that you just wrote off as something else that really then you figured out, it was something else.
Well, I remember when we were little, we lived in a little log cabin, and Lonnie was part of when she would come and stay. She lived down in that little log cabin with us. But anyway, so we grew up from, like carrying water. When we first were in there, we had no electricity. We used kerosene lamps, and our heat was a wood stove. So that's kind of how we grew up and lived. But I remember one time there was something going around the house, and our dog started barking at it, and um, then it was at nighttime, so something took our dog and just threw it against the house, and it just we heard the dog hit the house. And then we heard our dog kind of yelp, and my mom and dad kept trying to figure out what kind of animal would throw our dog up against the house. And so we never did figure it out, but we never did associate it with Bigfoot until years later. And then my grandma told a story of when she used to ride horseback to town. She worked at the hospital. And so she would ride horses, and she had to go down into the creek bottom and then ride back up on top and get up on the flat and then head down. And so one morning it was dark out, and so she was traveling through the creek bottom with her horse, and something started throwing these little rocks at her. And so she kind of thought it was a ghost, She was kind of looked at it as more paranormal, maybe a ghost was doing something. But then when we realized and heard stories years later that they do throw rocks, then we were like, my grandma probably had a Bigfoot experience
Oh,
with, because later years there was sightings in that same bottom, river bottom, that people had saw Bigfoot in the river bottom there. So that was another thing that we didn't think about till years later.
holy smokes! The whole dog thing. First of all, I don't know of any animal that's going to pick up a dog, and now humans definitely not going to pick up a dog and throw it against the house, because I can imagine whatever was out there was probably like, "Would you shut up, dog?" Like, wants the dog to shut up, so it's
Yeah.
not drawing attention to it, and all I could think of doing was, throwing the dog against the house. And like I said, a human wouldn't do that. I mean, it's bad, and I'm on the mail route every day, and I want to do that to dogs all day long, but I don't. For the
Yeah.
record, I don't. So, so,
Well,
so,
our dog, we called her, I think it was our dog named Lady, and she was really mean. So a lot of the people that lived around us didn't mess with Lady. They didn't bother around her or anything because she was really protective. And yeah, so I wouldn't think somebody would come around and try to pick up Lady, because they would have probably got bit. And
well, that doesn't sound like very much of a lady to me. But did the dog act?
she was a bit ferocious or something.
But did the dog then act differently about like wanting to go outside, or did it not change the way it acted? I mean, was there anything different about after that happened with the dog?
Well, um, the next day, my folks, they kind of looked at her, checked her out, and she was okay. She didn't have any injuries, but you know, they didn't think anything, and so they were just like, she's all right, and she was an outside dog anyway, so all right.
Wow, that's the first. I mean, I've heard of Bigfoot, messing with dogs like that and throwing them and doing it. I mean, but to have him toss them up against a house just to keep them quiet, that's something else. Holy smokes! But geez, so
One of
so
the things
this
that I was thinking of when she was talking about how you were trying to think of things, strange things, or different things that may have happened growing up is your our elders or older people would tell us not to go outside as little kids at night because scary man get us. And that was the hairy man in Mohican. And then we come to learn now in modern day stories all around the region, the world, ever that that is kind of a common thing that maybe perhaps medically that they take little children. Yeah, but we always had Mhm. that little scare, so we wouldn't go out at nighttime.
I think I think that would do it. And the thing is a lot of times you probably just thought, oh, they're just saying that, and not realizing that no, really, there's a Bigfoot out there, or there's, you know, a couple of them that might just take you and stuff. But saying that is, like, in your community, was there any kids that ended up missing that they couldn't explain that you guys can think of?
I can't think on our time frame.
Yeah, I, I mean, it makes me wonder, for them to say that it must have happened.
Right, right. That's what I was saying. I was like years and years ago, like maybe before like the white man came and still lived in our teepees and our lodges and everything like that. That must have been something that had happened, for them to still talk about it. You.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, there's usually a basis to that sort of stuff, like people call them, legends or old wives' tales or whatever, but there's usually a bit of truth to that, it seems like. So so now what was your sighting then when you were, and how old were you when you don't need to tell me how old you were because then we don't want to add up. Okay. I know better than that. So how did your experience take place?
Well, like I said, when we moved out into the country and we started living out in the country, we bought this property from uh, a family who me and my brother grew up with. We grew up ways, and we knew their mom and dad in the community of Starsco because they lived there too. Well, before that, they had their trailer up there, their trailer house, and then they didn't live up there too long, and then they ended up moving their trailer into the Starsco community. And so their land was just kind of sat vacant for a while, and then my mom and dad, they purchased that land, and we moved our house up there. But it was after we had moved up there that these boys began to talk to us about when they lived up there. And they would told us about it a few times where this thing walked around their trailer house. But I remember one that stood out was they were home alone and they could hear this thing walking around their trailer house. So they shut all the lights off. And the older boy said the thing actually came up to the porch. He said, and it was huge, whatever it was. He said, and it even like it was trying to mess with the doorknob or the door. He said, and he said just about the time they were about ready to just lose it and think this thing was gonna get inside the trailer. He said our parents pulled in. He said, and their lights flashed up to the trailer. He said, and that thing took off. And so, um, so things like that happening to them, they didn't want to live there no more. They just their trailer back to the community where there was a lot of other people and lived in Star School. So, but we were already settled there, living there, and then so we started to have things happen like screams and things going on and so it was in 1999. I was in college and we had gotten moved back home. Me and my husband at the time and my little boy, we moved back home and we were looking for a rent in town and we didn't find one right away. So my mom was like, "Why don't you guys just stay with us until you guys can get a rent?" I said, "Okay." So we moved in with them and uh, so that morning it was just me and my mom at home. And so we were sitting there drinking coffee and visiting. And I always remember it was July 1st, 1999. And we were sitting in the kitchen, and I kept looking out the kitchen window. And where our house is sits in a valley. And so there's a big ridge on this side of us and a big ridge that sits on this side. And then we kind of sit right down, and then the river runs through. Uh, um, and it's called Cupping Creek. So it runs through our property and down. And so we're just kind of in this valley area. And so I was looking across the valley over to the other ridge, and I noticed the cows acting really weird. So they kept running around. And then my mom remembers, and it reminded me, my mom remembers one of the cows running into the fence. So there was a fence up there, and she said, "Do you remember that cow that ran into the fence?" And I was like, "That's right." I said, "I remember that happening." But there was one cow that had run down and stopped and started looking up. So I kind of followed the gaze of the cow where it was looking, and that's when I saw that thing standing there. And it was tall and black. I mean, just black, like, it wasn't like shadowy black or any, it was a really a dark black color. And it was just standing there out in the open. And behind it, there's aspen trees, and then you go into pine trees. But it was out in the open, and it was just standing there, and it was looking at our house, just like it was looking at us. And I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, there's something standing over there." And so she gets up, and I'm trying to point to her to show the thing is standing, and she's not seeing it. And then by that time it turns and it starts to walk back into the so as it's walking back into the pine trees, I grab my dad's binoculars and I get the binoculars up and I'm trying to get focused back on it. And I did catch it in the binoculars just as it was going to the pine tree. And so when I caught it in the binoculars, that's when I saw that it had hair, that it was hairy. And that's when I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, it's a Bigfoot. It's a Bigfoot." And she was like, "Well, what's those other two things?" And I didn't see what she saw, but she saw two little things like hopping. And she said they hopped into the tree. And so it was like, you know, chaos going on with me and my mom. I'm yelling and she's trying to see, and we're just like going nuts in the kitchen. Um and so that's when I told her, I said, I saw. Um, so later that evening, after my husband got off of work, I said, "Let's go over there." I said, "There's got to be tracks because it had just rained. There's got to be tracks where it walked the pine trees." So we weren't brave enough on our own, so we got a couple other friends to come with us. So we go back there and we get back there with the car and we drive as far as we could. Then we have to get out and walk the rest of the way. So we get out and then I start walking and then I turn around and everybody's still standing by the car. None of them are with me. So when I realized that none of them are with me, and then I started getting that feeling like you're being watched, and like um like us, like Blackfeet people say, like, I don't know if other people say that, but we say my back felt thick, you know.
Your
So
back, your back felt thick.
it feels like there's something on it, It's
Okay.
the energy or whatever it is so strong that even paranormal stuff, when paranormal stuff happened to people, that's how they relate it to. They say my back felt sick.
I've never
You
heard that. I've
can't
never heard that.
move.
That's,
It's like, yeah, it's like you're almost like you can't just move, and just like run and take off and and so that's the only way I could describe it was like my back just felt thick and I turned around and I'm like, I want to just run back to that car and I'm moving as fast as I could. But I get back there because that's what I felt like. Something's watching us. And they must have felt it too because they just dove in the car and we backed out into. So I never did get to see if there was tracks there, but I'm sure there was. But we just weren't brave enough to. And now that I think back on it, I'm not even sure why I was so brave to go there that same day.
I think the saying is ignorance is bliss, right? Like you didn't know, you did. So, how far away then was this that you were seeing it? Like when you saw it with just, um, without the binoculars.
Feels like it was about quarter of a mile, between quarter and half a mile. 8. Between an eighth and a quarter.
So even from that distance, you could tell whatever it was that was there was huge. Because now, was it because of?
Yeah.
So how so? And you thought it was big, like maybe like because you could compare it to the cows, and you knew how big the cows were, or what? Is that why you thought it was so big, or?
Yeah. Well, actually, there was a railroad tie that people would, like they'd use as a corner post for their fencing.
Oh, okay,
There
okay.
was a big tie, and those ties are about, when people put them in the ground, I would say they're about 6 feet. I think they're 8 feet long, maybe, and about 2 feet in the ground, and uh, so they're about 5 to 6 out of the ground. And so there was a railroad tie in the ground there, um, and that they were using as like a corner post for the fencing. And that thing towered over, made that
Wow,
railroad tie just look.
wow. And so now, did you guys ever speculate at what the two little things that, or two smaller things that your mom saw? I mean, what did she really think those were?
Well, at first she was trying to tell me because she didn't see the Bigfoot. She was telling me it must be a bear. It's got to be a bear, and I'm like, Mom, it wasn't a bear. And she's like, well, I look like I seen these two little cubs run into the brush, and but later on, after we had a chance, after my dad got home and everybody got home, and we kind of started to sit and kind of talk about what we saw, what we experienced. Um, my mom said, the more I think about it, she said, now that I have a chance to kind of think, she said, these things didn't run like cubs. She said they ran more like monkeys, with like
Mm-hmm.
like that, you know. She said when they went into the trees. So so all I could say was maybe it's babies.
That
Maybe it was
sounds.
out in the open because those babies were out in the open.
Maybe the babies were out, were the what was messing with the cows, causing the cows to run around all crazy, and
Yeah, maybe they
and
were playing with the cows. I don't know.
so okay, so you see that, then what does that do then to your whole perspective on what's going on? Because before, you're just hearing these. It's one thing to hear the stories and say, yeah, I believe it, I believe the stories, but it's another thing to see something with your own eyes. And how does that change? And then how do you kind of, for lack of a better term, sucker Lailani into going out into she how do
Well,
you
where were you living at the time?
So, yeah, I was living in North Carolina at the time. I had left for a number of years for the military, and at that time, her and I were young mothers, wives, and so she kept in touch a lot, and we'd get on the phone and just talk for hours sometimes. And I do remember the story of her experience, and so it just kind of intrigued me. And after that, it was like just a thing. I would come home to Montana back to Blackfeet Reservation. We would just kind of wonder about it, kind of curious, and it did turn into something like Carrie Lynn said, that we would go out with our family, our whole entire family out, listening, doing whatever. And just my background, is journalism, journalist,
Hmm.
photojournalist, and a filmmaker as well. And so with that curiosity and with the, elevating our stories, our Indigenous stories, I always felt like it was important to kind of record the stories, but it didn't happen until like way later. So that's kind of how the YouTube channel started, is just the fact of like doing the storytelling project and being so intrigued. Like I was very intrigued with the fact, of course, that Carrie Lynn seen this being, but it was also hearing the stories all around, growing up to moving forward. So many, it was so interesting. You're like people from different ages, from different walks of life, and then also from different reservation communities. And then, of course, elsewhere, across the nation. So it was just always very interesting to me. And I felt like one of the things that, um, that I thought was really important is when I found out that people that told their stories or did not want to tell their stories, that they would get ridiculed or made fun of, or people would leave them. Some of them would be afraid to tell their story, things like that. And so that kind of bothered me because as a journalist, I sit and listen to, report and tell so many stories and hear stories, and that's those people's truth. Like if it's their truth and their experience, who are we to, you know, say that didn't happen? And especially across our Indigenous nation, I always kind of felt like there was some commonality. Then, of course, across the world. And as I kind of got really into it, researching and just listening to others, reading other, books or things like that, then I started really seeing this even here in America, where you see in some of the old newspaper, they called it wild man.
Hmm.
And so, in their encounters, so when all of these encounters from all over the nation, the world, are kind of similar to this mysterious being or people. It just really intrigued me. So I just told her, let's just utilize what we have, and I could just start making the videos, videoing them, editing them, putting them out there, and just sharing our stories. We have so many here on the Blackfeet Reservation, and those who want to tell them, let's share them, because I just felt like it would be, and it has been, almost a, I don't know, storytelling project of this has been just helpful to those who hear the stories and those who tell the story. It kind of builds bridges. And there's one thing that I see that was lacking, is that the stories from our Indigenous communities were not really out there, or they were just corny. People would try that weren't from our Indigenous community. Oh, the Native American people. Oh, no. And now let us tell you, just like we're sitting in our living room, the way we heard it, the way we experienced it, just be raw like that. And her and I, we get goofy, we are goofy, but we're really serious about it too. We're just ourselves. But,
we will not talk about the first 5 or 10 minutes before we got on the air then, because I don't want to ruin your journalistic credibility. But that's it. Just kidding. But the cool thing is it's just the modern day version of the oral tradition that you guys, these stories were passed down that you guys heard. And and almost the shame of it is that I think it would have been cool to have the ability, 100 years ago, to video the elders telling these stories and being able to maybe ask because I mean, I remember as a kid, I can think back to stories my grandparents told me just about anything, like growing up on the farm or my grandpa playing baseball, and wishing now as an older person with a different perspective that I could have asked different questions and gotten more answers, and it it would be cool to be able to look back and see some of this stuff on video and maybe even hear stuff that you forgot as a kid hearing this stuff. And I do think it's important for um, especially this subject, because like you guys said, you guys run into people who don't want to tell their story, or didn't want to tell their story because they felt like they were going to be ridiculed. But the problem is if people don't tell these stories, then the truth or whatever is really happening is never going to really be found, whether we're even going to find it or find out the truth or not. But people hear stuff from somebody else and then they feel a little more comfortable and maybe don't feel crazy or don't feel like they've lost their marbles, and that's important. And then, like you said, Carrie Lynn, you look back and things that you didn't attribute to maybe being Bigfoot, then all of a sudden make sense as, oh my gosh, that really maybe is the only thing that could have done that sort of thing. So it is super important, I think, for anybody that's even listening to us talk and watching you guys on YouTube. If you have a story, reach out and tell it, even if you want to remain anonymous, because every little puzzle piece helps the bigger picture. And I think what you guys are doing is awesome, and at the same time you guys are having fun doing it. And that is also a very important thing, is life is too short to not have fun and not to do stuff with people that you obviously love and care about and want to go spend time with. I mean, you never know when that day comes where you're not going to be able to, to do it. So you got to get out there and do it and enjoy it. Um, and I know you guys, I've seen some stuff. You guys had some other experiences other than just talking to people while you're out there, So, you guys want to talk about that a little bit, like some of the stuff that's already been out and some of the stuff that may be coming out? I know Lailani's awfully coy about this, but that's okay. Well, but I mean, do you want to share some of that stuff that's already out there for people to go and check out, and then give a little teaser for some stuff that may be coming?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few. If you just go to the channel and you check out like which ones have quite a few views, those are some really good stories. But there's also some that don't have a lot of views that are super good. Like I can't remember the name of it, but what is the one with Jay Bear Medicine? He's got like three scary encounters. I think that's the name of it. And he goes from way back, some stories that were told. And so when he told that story right here in Tiny Home, I had just heard that same similar story that happened around the turn of the century, right here on the reservation. And somebody had just mentioned that story like maybe 2 months before I heard that one. Oh, so that so those are three good ones, some that come right from his grandmother, to some that he already heard from way back when. There's some really good ones by John Catholic. What I find interesting, just kind of putting my journalism hat on again, is that it seems to me that those folks that have seen it or experienced it seem to have more experiences or sightings of it. And we've got a few people on. Carrie Lynn is one of them. She does have another stories of hearing the screams and things like that. So there's John Catholic, there's Big Falcon tells quite a few in the beginning. different encounters from when he was a little tiny kid to a teenager and just kind of growing older. There's a few people on there that have seen and heard it, and I always kind of wonder about talking to my sister and brother-in-law tonight about that. I was like, that's just interesting. My sister's one of them. A couple times.
Well, we'll definitely, like, when we put this episode up, we'll put a link to you guys' channel because I want everybody to go check this stuff out. And but you did say something there that I do find happens quite a bit. When somebody has one experience, it seems to open up their third eye, or whatever you want to call it, or at least makes them realize that there's, to pay more attention to stuff. And it doesn't matter what the paranormal situation is, whether it's Bigfoot or ghosts or UFOs or something. And I do hear from people that say, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. How can somebody experience everything? And I just do think there are people that once they open themselves up to the possibility, a lot of things either present themselves to them, or it's just stuff that's been happening that people have ignored, and kind of like, hey, that's something I need to reconsider and pay a little closer attention to. So, but I do know, for everybody that is listening and goes and checks out your channel, it's not just the good stuff you guys have up already. You do have some stuff that may be coming out that is kind of exciting. I mean,
done it a little bit, just so folks can get kind of pretty excited. So, yeah, we've had some really, I would say, paranormal experiences, and that is really outrageous. And I am one that Carrie Lynn knew this for years, and now she sees a difference in me since we've been doing our kind of like our little investigations over the years. So I've always been this person that would go out and like, it's okay. I get kind of nervous and feel like something's watching or whatever, some kind of feel. And I'd be like, it'll be all right. There's nothing out here. And so I never really felt anything. And then years moving forward, I was starting to sense things. And there was one particular time where she was surprised because I was like, Carrie Lynn, and she thought I was just probably joking. And then she realized I wasn't. She goes, really? She kind of looked at me seriously. And And so, so we left. So as we moved forward, just starting to sense and feel these things, now it's getting stronger. And there's some things that some of our stories that we put out there on the channel, we're going to have to relate back to those particular stories that we told, or being out somewhere, because we do like a lot of hiking in our investigations. So we're out there. And so there's some that we're going to have to link back to actually tell the inside portion of what her and I have experienced at the same time, the exact same thing. And it's really outrageous to the point where even I'm kind of like, well, I just don't, it's a mystery. It's really interesting. And it's like, probably why we haven't done it yet. It's how do we say this?
Mm-hmm.
How do we?
And I think that's why we haven't. I mean, we've got bits and part of the video, but we're having a hard time putting it together in words of what we experienced, and trying to convey that to people of what we
through video,
what it felt like, and everything.
Yeah. And
what was going on, because it's almost like, you get to that point where you're like, they're gonna, like we say, they're gonna think we're nuts.
And everybody, just for the record, I tried my hardest to help them figure out how to, and they still wouldn't. I mean, I offered to, and they still wouldn't tell me what happens. I'm going to have to watch just like just like everybody else. Well, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see, see these videos and see, and I hope, I have confidence that you guys can figure out a way to convey what happened to everybody. Um, so,
The more we go out, like she said, the more sensitive we're getting to like activity, and when there is a Bigfoot in the area and when there isn't, because there's just that, I don't know what you would call it, this vibe or this energy that's there that tells you there's one in the area, And at first, we were just kind of blindly going out and, because we were curious and everything like that. Like I said, ever since I had my sighting, that's all I think about, I mean, like when I'm going to a picnic, there's a Bigfoot, If I'm going camping, I wonder if there's a Bigfoot. Let's go to the park. I wonder if there's a Bigfoot,
And I'm like that now too. I'm just, yeah. Everybody knows that we're like that.
Because I'm always, once you see one, you just know they're there, and so it's never far off of your mind whenever you go out into the wilderness. You just know they're there.
No,
and you
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and when she says, when you know that they're out there, when you've seen one and and I haven't seen one, but yet I know. And I think it's because I'm surrounded by just so many stories, and so many real life experiences of people that I know that have seen
it. And I wonder, because I wanted to ask you that, like, are you going to be are you going to be satisfied if 20 years from now you still have never actually laid your eyes on one, or do you feel like you're going to be like secure in the fact that, hey, I just know because there's so many people that I personally know that have told these stories that I just know they're there. I don't really need to see one.
Good question. Yes, I feel like I'll be satisfied because there's so many people that I do know that have seen it. And I just know it.
Carrie Lynn, I'm just going to tell you, between me and you, I sensed in that answer that she's probably kind of scared to actually see one that's going to rock her world.
Yeah, we always say that. Like, what if we do? What are we going to do? Have an experience? What are we going to do? Because we still don't know what we would actually do.
I'm telling you. Well, the video
of you a little bit. I'll give a sneak peek. She would probably run, and I would say, "We need to stay here and see this.
We need to film it.
We need to record. We need to take it all in."
Because when we start getting experiences, like we start feeling like we're being watched, we start feeling that atmosphere change. I start getting scared because I know what they look like, and I'm just like,
your back. Does your back start feeling thick?
Yeah, my back starts feeling thick, and I'm just like, Lailani, and I start getting all,
And that's probably the way we make a good team.
Yeah. So she'll kind of like, well, wait, let's listen, let's stop, and just kind of calms us down, and then
take a breath. Yeah, we're okay. We're safe. Okay.
Well, like the one video where you guys are way out there on snowshoes in the snow, like
getting knocks too.
You're out there by like, it's just you two, right? There's not like some big dude out there with a rifle or something. I mean, it's just you guys out there, right?
Us and bear mix.
You really think
we're getting knocks on both sides of us?
He's still sitting there scared for us.
And then
I know, like bear mace isn't going to do anything. Okay, it's
like,
not a.
things are happening just right in the tree line, getting these tree snaps, and they're paralleling us. So as we go up, there's a tree snap. We go up further, straight across. There's another snap, and then
Yeah,
there's
and the next scene, you guys are like sitting there eating like s'mores or something, and I'm like, what is going on with these girls? They're either the bravest. Yeah, they're either the bravest or the craziest. I'm not.
Everybody tells us that
They
here.
do too.
When
Everybody that
see
knows
the
us.
first thing they tell us is, "Oh, you guys are crazy." But my dad was
they were brave.
my dad was just saying, was it last night or night before? He was telling my mom. He said, "I really think," and this coming from my dad, that just gave me some confidence. He said, "I really think these girls," he said, "that they are really getting close to seeing one." He said, I just think because of how we go out, a lot and stuff, and then we are having these experiences. And so he was just saying, I really feel like they're getting close in one. I was like, yep. I said, I kind of feel it too.
Well, I really hope that all of a sudden a video doesn't appear on the YouTube channel. It says last video, and it's just one they found with your snowshoes somewhere out there, and just decided to share the last moments of you guys. Now,
Or what?
now,
Politis is all of his he tells people to
Advice.
do. Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I just wanted to say something really quick. Her phone's on.
Oh, is it? Okay. So her phone's low on battery. So we'll wrap this up then. But I do want everybody to so it's the Pikuni, and that's not spelled how I'm saying it. It's Pikuni, Bigfoot Storytelling Project on Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube. And it's probably on Facebook too, isn't it? You guys got a Facebook page? No? No? Okay. You're shaking your head. No, that's terrible for radio, just so you know that. Shaking your head, and anyway, but we'll put a link up because I want everybody to go check it out. There are great stories, and we've had a lot of fun here at the end. You guys are super fun ladies. I think I would actually probably go out. I don't know if I'd do the snowshoeing with you guys, because all I would know is I would be the slowest one, and you guys would feel super safe because you could get out and I'd be left behind. And then the video would be Shane Grove meets Bigfoot, and that's the end. So, but I want everybody to go check you guys out, and follow you guys' page and channel, and just your adventures, because you guys are fun. You guys are fun, and like we said, you're doing this for all the right reasons, and telling great stories. I think you guys are doing a great thing, and like I said, you guys are having fun and doing stuff with people that you care about, and doing something that you just are really passionate about. So, and I think, Lailani, you're going to get a chance to see the big guy, and I can't wait to hear about it. So I can't wait to hear about it. I hope you don't make me wait to see it on the YouTube video. I hope I at least get this. So, but I appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks to Amy Boo for connecting us, but I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your experiences, and be safe out there. We want to see a lot more from you guys.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Shane.
We're so glad that you didn't give up on us, and you. And the last couple of weeks were crazy, and we're just glad that you continue to try to find us, and get in touch with us.
No, I knew I knew it'd be worth the wait, and you guys did not disappoint. So thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out. Go on.